Thank you for your fantastic questions. During my time, there is no bank that collapsed. I was governor of the Central Bank of Kenya from March 2007 to the beginning of March in 2015. That does not mean, Mheshimiwa Majority Leader Bwana Kimani Ichung'wah, that there were no problems. There were problems. But you have to make sure that you bring in or you develop new solutions and new interventions to save the market. And that's what we did. There were several mergers, but those mergers were actually geared towards preventing any collapse of the banks, because market situations do change. Some projections in marketplace can change. And so the regulator must know what to do. A regulator is not someone who is waving an axe in the market. A regulator is a person who is trying to understand the market, help develop the market, and the third one is regulate and protect the market. So those three dimensions are very, very important for a regulator. And that is what I did for most of the time that I was there. Now, of course, the affidavits that have come up, let me comment on them. One, the first point I would like to make, Mr. Chairman and honorable members who have asked this question, is that we want to stop at the first point of just mentioning what it is. We don't want to go further and see what has happened. The case, for example, for the procurement, I fought it through the courts to the Court of Appeal, and there was a judgment. The case of Grad Regency, I think the statement is that I was adversely mentioned. I was an agent of government, and this was a government-to-government sale, and I was the one to negotiate and to receive the payment, which was actually received by the government. And for your information, the end result was that it gained 3.114 billion shillings that was actually used in Lamu to dredge the port. The idea in government then was that such recovery from corruption proceeds should be used in fixed investments that would give Kenyans perpetual benefits. And that is how it was allocated there. There was a commission of inquiry that was started, but it was supposed to check whether the sale was appropriately done. Now, the whole issue was, how was it appropriately done? According to that commission, it valued the hotel at 1.8 billion. Then the question they were asked, what about the central bank? How did it value the hotel? It was at 2.2 billion. And then how much was the hotel sold by the central bank? It was sold at 2.8 billion. The difference between 2.8 billion and 3.114 is because of the retained earnings during the operations. So in a sense, it was value for money, and that was what the committee was supposed to establish. Let me state this, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, that we are, and especially for me, I've been a victim of abuse of the criminal justice system. For example, the procurement that has been mentioned, the whole idea was to get Njuguna out of the central bank. How do you do it? That's why, even if you go to the records, you will just be embarrassed, the kind of facts. Now, the biggest problem I have, when Ichung'wah and the others who have asked the question, is that the National Human Rights Commission, the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, and the Transparency International should be coming to our aid as victims of abuse of the criminal justice system. But they are coming here to make us the victims. It's quite a paradox. It's actually extremely, I would like maybe to invite people to read even the judgment, even the Commission of Inquiry on Grad Regency. It's so interesting that they find it that they become also a victim. It is something that we may want to check out, Mr. Chairman. It's something that we have to rethink about the mandate of some of these institutions, and it's something that we need to correct from the very beginning.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt the good professor, but I feel he's on a tangent now to blame the petitioners. I just wanted him to clarify because that was my question, Professor, in the interest of the country and the economy, we want to, if we approve you, to approve someone that will be confident, has no issues of integrity hanging over his head. And the opportunity now you have is to make that clear. And that's why I asked the status of the Grand Regency, which I have heard you've clearly stated that you are exonerated by the Commission of Inquiry. Well, I hear my colleague saying no. So we want to know what was the status. Okay. What is the status of the charges on the 1.2 billion tender? Mm-hmm. You know, it's good to say it went to court, or you fought it to Court of Appeal.
Thank you.
What was the verdict?
Thank you for clarifying. Yes, the tender issue, let me first of all say that it was very clear that CEOs are not involved in the procurement. Their work is only to appoint the procurement committee. And that matter went all the way to the appeal, and they showed that the problem was the procurement committee of the central bank, and I was vindicated. I had no role to play. The Grand Regency, again, is an issue. I have shown that the government position was that the proceeds would be invested, and they were already invested in that case. And maybe I can go to, so in actual fact, my role was very, very clear as an agent, and my role was also very, very clear that I had no role to play in procurement. But I wanted to go further to show that actually when such issues come, although I'm trying to defend myself, when such issues come, also those people who bring them up, they should see the whole end.
Speaker, point of order. The nominee is not helping us make progress. For instance, he's saying talking about being vindicated in the Grand Regency cell. He's not saying by who. Because the report of the commission is clear that you are indicted. Yeah, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With due respect, and maybe I will seek your protection because I have never seen the report. I only remember that the government said those proceeds that the central bank has done well for raising that kind of money. It was invested in Lamu Port, and you are aware of that. And the whole conclusion was that if such resources coming from corruption proceeds are invested in the projects that provide perpetual benefits, then everybody is happy. Let me also move on to, sorry.
Yes, Chunga.
Maybe as a procedural matter of guidance to the committee, with all due respect to my colleague, the leader of minority. I don't know when, as a committee, we allude to a report. Is it not in order then, as a procedural issue, that a copy of that report is shared with the committee so that either the nominee or other members of the committee are able to benefit from that? So that, Honorable Speaker, we avoid the issues of raising issues to the public gallery. And I say that with a lot of respect to my brother, because the earlier nominee who was here, Professor Kindiki, had the same issue on an issue that my brother was not able to, again, clear up properly, that indeed the allegations were against the law firm of Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen and Company, not the law firm of Honorable Kindiki. So maybe, Speaker, you could guide us on that issue.
There were affidavits, 1 or 2, sent to the committee through the clerk. I instructed that they be furnished to the nominee. I believe you have been served. And I did hear the 2 members make reference to those affidavits. I would encourage the nominee to answer questions. That's why I said precise and concise. When we go on to a long journey, we end up stumbling somewhere. So I would want you, Professor, the 3 questions that were asked that cast aspersions on your integrity by Chungwa, Wandai, and Junet, just answer them straight and clear. Are they true? They are not. Was there a court process? How did it end? Did your wife go to Thailand on holiday paid by Imperial Bank? Was it Imperial Bank? If it wasn't, because it's an allegation being raised by Junet. I've seen no evidence that it happened.